Hey, Dr. Ray here, founder of the Learning Liaisons, and welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday evening math sessions featuring our math specialist and your math specialist, Amy Sink. In the next hour, Amy has put together a sample set of approximately 10 practice questions that run the gamut from kindergarten levels all the way through 12th grade high school math. Now, I know you are attending here, watching this, and you're like, well, I'm doing elementary in Texas, or I'm doing elementary in Praxis, or I'm doing high school math in Florida, or middle school math in Texas. And what's going on here, right? So we're doing these sessions to help you guys out and provide you with different ways to look at problems and to build that confidence. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, one of our major objectives is to clear up the testing confusion, give you the support you deserve in order to nail your exam and be done with it. So our focus is on math. Now, are we going to be just focusing on high school math the whole hour or elementary? No. We've got a mixture here. Now, Amy is going to go through a bunch of problems. You're going to have the opportunity to download those as a PDF. So when Amy starts, just pay attention to the screen. We're going to have a message there for you so you can download the PDF in case we don't get to all the problems or want to practice on your own. She's going to do her best to go across all different grade levels. If you have a question, you feel free to ask Amy your question as well. We're teachers here too, so we can multitask. Our job is to make sure that we give you what you need to be successful. But if you're like, dang it, I didn't have any questions this week, don't worry. We'll be here next Wednesday night as well. So bring those questions with you if you want, and you can ask Amy away. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, we pride ourselves in providing you guys the support you need to pass your exam. So whether you're our Florida teachers here with our FTCE exams, our national exam Praxis peeps, big shout out to you guys out there too, and especially our newcomers to the Learning Liaisons brand, TExES Prep. So whether you're elementary, middle school, and high school, we've got your back. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, get ready to learn some math, and stay tuned for the end because I'm going to jump back on to close this out. And I got a special surprise for you guys who really want to get the real deal prep and get everything you need to be successful and practice, clear up that confusion, and pass your certification exam on the next attempt. So, welcome to the Learning Liaisons community. Always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the reason why you're here, Amy. You with us, Amy? Let's get going.
Welcome to Wednesday Night Math Night. I am so excited to be back with you. Priya was with us last week. She did a great job, but I am excited to be back with you tonight. Like Dr. A said, I am going to go over, he says approximately 10 questions. I'll probably go over more like 8 questions. I feel like normally I just don't get to all the questions because I do thoroughly explain all of the problems. So with that said, I always like to do a couple things before we get started. One, I like to do introductions. Where are you from? What test are you prepping for? And I always do a random get to know you question. So the random get to know you question today is, do you like tangerines? I always like to think that I'm going to like tangerines or oranges. It's my baby's new favorite food, so that's why we're asking it today. But the stringiness of oranges and tangerines just gets to me every time. I put it in my mouth and I love the taste of a tangerine, but I just don't like that skin. Like every little string has to be pulled off of it for me to like it. So that's my story on tangerines. So more importantly, where are you from and what test are you prepping for? I am from Central Florida. I'm obviously not prepping for any tests, but I am here to help you prep for any math test that you have, which is why we're here. Another thing, if you have any questions specifically that you're working through in your study guide or topics that you're just really struggling with, like this week I had somebody say that they're really struggling with like geometry and finding the volume of 3D shapes. So I included that tonight. So if there's anything that you're struggling with or that you need help with, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help you. And I'm more than happy to include those topics or those questions in the upcoming sessions because this is for you. And so I love serving you by doing that. Hey, Donna, good to see you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the first problem. Hey, now I don't know if I'm going to say it right. It's either Nessie or Nisi. You're from Tallahassee. GK math functions. Okay, I'm actually going to start a slide that allows me to write down what we need help with for next week. So next week, we are definitely going to go over GK functions. You got it. Hey, Jaylee, kindergarten teacher from the Panhandle. Welcome, welcome. All right, so there's my note sheet. If there's anything else y'all need help with, let me know, and I'll add it to my notes for next week, and I will make sure to include it in the upcoming weeks because, like I said, it's so much more fun when I get to serve you by putting the content that you want to see in the upcoming sessions. So let's go ahead and get started. And happy March. I cannot believe it's March 1st already. That is wild. And spring break is like 2 weeks away. All right, problem number 1. This is a fraction percentage problem. Now, somebody did specifically request fractions, percentages, word problems. So that's where this problem is coming from. So let's get going. A PE coach has 144 assorted sports balls. Basketballs make up 1/8 of the PE coach's supply. Dodgeballs make up 4/9 of the collection. There are 2 times as many dodgeballs as there are kickballs, and the rest of the PE coach's supply of sports balls are soccer balls. What percentage of the PE coach's supply of sports balls are dodgeballs and kickballs combined? Whoo-wee! That is a lot of words. And so already my brain started blah, 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 blah as I was reading that problem. So here's what I like to do. I always like to read a long word problem twice so I can get a grasp for it. It takes you less than 20 seconds. So we're going to read it again, and I'm going to kind of highlight what I think is important. So a PE coach has 144 sports balls. So I know that he has this many total. And I'm processing through this problem just like I would if I was taking this test. Basketballs make up 1/8 of the PE coach's supply. Dodgeballs make up 4/9. And there are 2 times as many dodgeballs as there are kickballs. And the rest are soccer balls. So the reason I highlighted it in 4 different colors is because I wanted to see how many different kinds of balls we have. So we have basketballs, dodgeballs, kickballs, and soccer. And all of that added up has to equal what? 144. And yes, I see that we just disconnected, so we're going to reconnect and keep on going. So all of that has to add up to 144, right? There we go. So it says basketballs make up 1/8 of the collection. Why are we not connected? There we go. Okay. So how am I going to figure out how many basketballs I have? Let's not be afraid of fractions here, okay? So basketballs are 1/8. Let's remember that fractions are just a part over a whole, right? So in this case, my whole is 144. And I'm trying to figure out what part of the whole we have. So I'm trying to figure out how many of my 144 are basketballs. And we know that basketballs equal 1/8. So I can do cross multiplication here. Or I could also do 144 divided by 8, because that's going to give me how many 8s I have. So if I do 144 divided by 8, that gives me 18. That means that 1/8 is 18. 2/8 would be 36. 3/8 would be 54 because 1/8 is 18. Because if I did 18 plus 18 plus 18 plus 18 plus 18 8 times, I'd get 144. So there are 18 basketballs. Dodgeballs make up 4/9 of the collection. Well, we're going to use that exact same process that I just did to figure out how many dodgeballs I have. In this case, I'm going to do 144 divided by 9, and that's going to give me 1/9. Then I'm going to have to multiply it times 4 to get 4/9. So let's go ahead and divide that out. 144 divided by 9 is 16. But then it's not 1/9, it's 4/9. So I'm going to multiply my 9th times 4, which gives me 64. So I have 64 dodgeballs. There are 2 times as many dodgeballs as there are kickballs, and then the rest are soccer balls. So in this case, am I going to multiply dodgeballs by 2, or am I going to divide dodgeballs by 2? Am I going to multiply dodgeballs by 2, or am I going to divide dodgeballs by 2? Hey, Joseph. Hey, TJ. Hey, Tara. Let me know what test you're prepping for. It'll help me gear what kinds of geometry problems you're looking for, and I'll add that to my list. So if there are 2 times as many dodgeballs as there are kickballs, that means there are more dodgeballs than we have kickballs. So that means we are going to divide 64 by 2 because we have 2 times more dodgeballs than we do kickballs. So 64 divided by 2 is 32, which means we have 32 kickballs. Now, the rest are soccer balls. So I'm just going to add all those up. 32 plus 64 plus 18 equals 114. And then I'm going to figure out the number of soccer balls. Except, I want you to look at the problem. What percentage of the supply are dodgeballs and kickballs? What percentage of the supply are dodgeballs and kickballs? Do I need to figure out how many soccer balls we have? I don't. Now, if I did, is it okay? Absolutely. But I usually try to pay attention to what my question is asking me because I would really hate to waste valuable time. You all know how much value each second has when we're taking these tests. So I really try to value that time by paying attention to that question. So dodgeballs and kickballs was what I was looking for. Don't need how many soccer balls. Now, there are 30 soccer balls for those of you who are curious, but we don't need that information. So what percentage? Now, percentages and fractions are very similar. Percentages are just a part of a whole represented in percents. So I'm going to add the 64 plus the 32. And that gives me 96. Does that mean that 96% of my balls are kickballs and dodgeballs combined? No, it doesn't. It means that 96 of my balls are 96 of the balls are dodgeballs and kickballs, but that doesn't mean 96%. It would be 96% if I only had 100 balls, but I don't have 100 balls. I have 144 balls. So 96 is going to be out because 96% of 144 is almost all of the balls, and we're not close to almost all of the balls. So it's not going to be 96, and quite frankly, 92 is too close. Like if I was a guessing woman and at this point I didn't know what else to do, I know that 100% would be 144. So 90%, 92, 96, this is not close enough for me to warrant that. Now, I'm going to take that 96 and put it over 144 because remember, we can take a fraction, we can convert it into a decimal, a percent, or a ratio. So I can do 96 divided by 144 in my calculator, and I get 0.66 repeating. Now, I can convert that decimal into a percentage by hopping that decimal 2 places to the right, and that gives me 66.6%, which rounds up to 67%. B. Any questions? Joseph, excellent job. Tara, remind me what test you're taking so that I can get the correct geometry problems for you. So we're going to add geometry to this list. If you think of anything else you want added to this list, let me know. I have functions in calculus on my list. And I have something else on my list. Can't remember right now. All right, let's go on to problem number 2. In fact, welcome to geometry. So if you requested geometry, poof, I made it happen. All right, let's go ahead and solve this problem. Phoebe is trying to put carpet down in a room that is shaped like the shape below. How much square carpet will Phoebe need for the room? All right, this right here, Joseph, you posted questions on the Facebook page. I did not see those, or I did see them and I forgot. So I'm going to say Facebook page, Joseph questions. Thank you for letting me know that. I will absolutely go back to that and include those next week because I did not either see them or I forgot that I saw them and I did not include them this week. Thank you. All right. Phoebe is trying to put carpet down. This is a area problem because we're looking for how much square carpet. Square carpet, when we're looking at measurements, linear measurements are going to be perimeter. Square measurements are going to be your area. And cubic measurements are going to be your volume. So if we're looking for square measurements, we're looking for the area. Now, this is a composition area problem because we're composing 2 shapes to create one. I don't have a formula for a weird 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a weird non-regular hexagon shape. There's no formula for that. What we do have is the area formula for a rectangle. Area of a rectangle equals length times width. Now, why would area of a rectangle be helpful in this situation? Because here we have 2 rectangles. I can divide this shape into 2 rectangles like this, and I have rectangle A over here and rectangle B over here. Or I can divide my rectangle like this, and I have rectangle A and rectangle B here. For some reason, I personally always default to dividing it like this. I don't know why, I just do. You might always default to doing it the other way. And in fact, there's even a third way that we can solve this problem, and it's by finding the area of this bigger rectangle and then subtracting out the smaller rectangle. So 3 different ways we can solve this problem. That said, I'm going to go ahead and solve it by using this method. If anybody else wants to see me solve it using a different method, please let me know in the comments, and I absolutely will do that. So let's go ahead and solve this. Now, I have rectangle A, which is this rectangle right here. That rectangle has a length of 17 and a width of 12. Very straightforward. So I'm going to do 12 times 17. You could have also done 17 times 12 because multiplication is commutative. And 12 times 17 equals 204. Now I'm going to find the area of rectangle B. Rectangle B is this rectangle right here. What is the length of rectangle B? We have not been given the length. We have the length of this entire side, which is 34. But we have not been given the length of just this section right here. And that's the most common mistake people make, is they're going to use 34 for that measurement. We do have the whole measurement, and then we also know that this section right here is 12. How do I know that? Because this side is 12, so this side is also going to be 12. So that said, if that's 12 and the whole thing is 34, 34 minus 12 equals 22. Excellent job, Joseph. So this is 22. Because 22 plus 12 equals 34. Now, using that same philosophy, what would the measurement of this side be? Using that same philosophy, what would the measurement of that side be? Well, if this whole thing is 17, and this measurement right here is 6, 17 minus 6 is 11. So then this side is 11. Now, you're probably looking at me like, but Amy, I don't understand that, because this side is longer than this side. You're absolutely correct. So that was weird. It just started FaceTiming a random person, and I don't know them. Okay, you're oh, I do know them. It just came through on my iPad. That's weird. So that means 17 minus 6 is 11. Here's what I need you to know. I need you to know that pictures are often not drawn to scale. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, and they do that on purpose because they want you to use the mathematics to solve it. So that means that I'm going to do 22 times 11, which is going to equal 242. So now I'm going to do 204 plus 242, which gives us 446 feet squared. Anybody have any questions about that one? All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now, I will say, I'm just going to erase this right here because I did not change I changed this problem, but I didn't change the answer choices. So the answer is 446. Promise. All right, now I took this exact problem and I spun it into another problem. Phoebe's trying to put baseboards down in a room that is shaped like the shape below. How much money will the baseboard cost if the baseboard is sold in 3 feet sections at $16 per section? If we're looking for baseboard, we are looking at perimeter of the shape. We are no longer looking at the area of the shape because we're looking at how we can frame this room out using baseboards. How much money will the baseboard cost if it's sold in 3 feet sections at $16 per section? Now, they did not say that we can't reuse pieces. So that means that if I buy a 3-foot section for this side and I put them all together, 34 divided by 3 is 11.3. So that means I'm going to be able to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. That's going to get me 33 feet. And then to get to that 34th feet, I would have to purchase a 12th board. But then I have 2 extra feet that I can use here. It does not say I cannot reuse pieces. If it said that I cannot reuse pieces, my answer would be totally different because I would have to overbuy on every single section. But it did not say that, so we can actually move forward and know in our head that we can use the leftovers on other pieces of this baseboard. So in order to figure out the baseboard or the perimeter of this shape, we need to do this side plus 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 this side. Well, we have a question mark here and a question mark here. So we have 34 plus 17 plus 12 plus 6 plus blank plus blank. Now, I just went over how to find those missing sides. So we already figured out that this side is 22 and that this side is 11. So we don't need to solve that again, only because I just did it. So I'm going to do 22 plus 11. So let's go ahead and do that in our calculator. $34 plus 17 plus 12 plus 6 plus 22 plus 11. That gives me 102. Well, I'm obviously not done because 102 isn't even an answer on the answer choices. So I'm obviously not done. So I need to keep reading. How much money? So I know I'm going to need to take my feet and multiply it by something. Will the baseboard cost if it is sold in 3 feet sections at $16 per section? So am I going to multiply this times 16? Absolutely not, because that would be $16 for every foot. I want $16 for every 3 feet. So I need to divide this by 3. So I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator. 102 divided by 3 equals 34. That means I'm going to need exactly 34 sections of 3-foot baseboard. I don't know about you, but when my husband and I do baseboards in our house, I can assure you that we end up trashing a lot of baseboards because we make the wrong cut. We make a cut that's too long. We make a cut that's too short. But they did not say that we need to account for that. So apparently Phoebe is an expert at putting baseboards down because it does not say that we need to account for an extra foot per wall or anything like that. So 34 is how many boards we need. So now I'm going to multiply that times 16 because it's $16 per board and we get 544, which is A. Well, we checked off the geometry. Would this work the same if you found the perimeter including the missing piece? I'm not sure I understand your question because we found the missing pieces here. So can you clarify that question for me? If I found the perimeter including the missing piece, let me know what you're thinking about or what that question is and I'll come back to it. All right, let's keep going. This one's a fun one. This next one is one of my favorite kinds of problems. All right, and I'll come back to this, Joseph, after you clarify that question. I did perimeter equals 2 times 17 plus 2 times 34. So the only reason that works, Joseph, for perimeter is because technically when we draw that rectangle, those are the pieces that we have, right? But then this piece is the exact same length as that piece, and this piece is the exact same length as this piece. So for perimeter only, not for area, that's why you can do 34 plus 34 plus 17 plus 17, because this is 34 and this is 17. So yes, that does work. All right. Lines P and Q intersect at point X comma Y at a 90-degree angle. If the slope of line P is this symbol over this symbol, what is the slope of line Q? All right, so P and Q intersect at a 90-degree angle. For those of you who really understand the slope, this problem is probably going to take you less than 10 seconds. Like, this problem is something that I would have been able to look at, click, and go. But if you don't understand slope, let's go ahead and talk about it. Here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to see these crazy symbols and X and a Y and a P and a Q and no numbers and give up. Because when I explain this, a lot of you are going to go, got it. So here's my graph. Here's P. Here's Q. And they said they intersect at a 90-degree angle. Okay? They said it intersects at a 90-degree angle. At point, let's call that XY. Does it matter if that XY is there? Or if we had lines over here that intersected and XY was over here? It does not. Here's why. We know these are perpendicular lines because they are intersecting at a 90-degree angle. What do we know about the slope of perpendicular lines? What do we know about the slope of perpendicular lines? Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So that means if the slope of line P is this over this, then the slope of line Q is going to be what? Negative reciprocal, which means C is our answer. That went super fast, didn't it? So if you understand the concept, applying it to a problem like this really isn't that difficult. The problem is our brain doesn't see any numbers, and so we really struggle with conceptualizing it when really it's quite a straightforward problem. All right, Jacinth, you did the same thing as Joseph and you got the same, 102. Okay, yes, but 102 is not the end of it, because 102 is just this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this, right? And so because of that, that's how many feet we have. But they asked us how much money the baseboard is going to cost, and they're selling it in 3 feet sections, which is why I had to go through with those steps. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and look at this same problem almost, but it's different. Lines P and Q do not intersect. All right, let's draw a picture of it. Lines P, I'm going to use the same colors. Lines P and Q do not intersect. What does that mean? If they do not intersect, that means they are parallel. So what do we know about parallel slopes? Parallel lines have the what? Same slope. So that means if the slope of line P is that, the slope of line Q is exactly the same. Again, do not let weird symbols intimidate you out of a problem. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next problem. Actually, you know what? Let's keep with this with the spirit of weird symbols. Let's do this one. If the sum of funky looking U and capital cursive M equals 19, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to write that out. Funky looking U plus cursive M equals 19. And the equation below is true. What is the value of funky looking U plus 2 times cursive M? Again, these are symbols that you and I don't use on a daily basis, but that doesn't mean they're intimidating. We could have just replaced it with an X and a Y. If the sum of X and Y equals 19 and the equation below is true, what is the value of X plus 2Y? Same thing. So, how am I going to solve this? I have a funky looking U plus a cursive M equals 19. And this is true. Well, unfortunately, I've got two equations. I've got funky looking U plus M equals 19, and I've got 1/2 parentheses U plus 2M equals 18. How do I solve two equations that have two separate variables? How do I solve that? Substitution or elimination. You got it. So if I'm going to use substitution or elimination to solve this, I'm probably going to use substitution with this equation because it's set up pretty similar. So I'm going to subtract the M from both sides. And I'm going to get funky looking U equals 19 minus M. Now, could you have subtracted funky looking U? Absolutely. And you would have gotten 19 minus U. And you would have plugged it in somewhere else. Now, I want you to think about this. Substitution is just the idea that I'm literally substituting something out or pulling something out and substituting something back in. So, for instance, if I'm making brownies and I realize that we've run out of eggs, I can substitute an egg with applesauce. If I am a football coach, okay, and my quarterback goes down and is injured, what can I do? I can sub out that quarterback for another quarterback. I cannot sub a quarterback out and put a defensive lineman in. Just like I can't take an egg out of a recipe and put an extra cup of flour in. They're not equivalent. I have to substitute out something that is equivalent. So in this situation, U is equivalent with 19 minus M. So I can literally take 19 minus M and put it in anywhere there is a U. So I can do 1/2 times 19 minus M plus 2M equals, and I'm going to have to move this over because I'm running out of space, 18. I substituted the U out and I put 19 minus M in because they are the same. So now I can go ahead and simplify. 1/2 times, and this kind of looks like a 27, so I'm going to adjust that. 19. What is minus 1 plus 2, or 2 minus 1? 2 minus 1 is just 1m, so plus 1m equals 18. Distribute the 1/2. (9.5) plus 1/2 an m equals 18. 18 minus 9.5 equals 8.5. 1/2 m equals 8.5 times 2 on both sides. M equals 17. Now, I'm not done. And if at any point any of those steps did not make sense, I need you to speak up. I kind of went through that quickly. If at any point those steps did not make sense, I need you to speak up because I did go through that quickly. Now, M is 17. What did they ask us for? They asked us for the value of u plus 2m. So they didn't ask us for m or u. They asked us for u plus 2m. Well, I know that u plus m equals 19. So let's go back to the basics and let's figure out what the value of u is using that information. U plus 17 equals 19. That means that u is going to equal 2. So now 2 plus 2 times m, which is 17. 2 plus 34 equals 36. So my answer is D. Why did I multiply by 2? Jaylee, I'm really glad you asked that question. I was worried that somebody might ask that. Okay, not worried, like I'm glad. I figured somebody would get confused there, so I'm glad you asked that. Okay, so we understand how we got from here to here, but then that multiplying by 2. Okay, I have 1/2 m. I could have divided both sides by 1/2 because the m is being multiplied by 1/2. And how do we undo multiplication? Division. However, dividing by a fraction, you and I both know we can't really do it. We have to keep, change, flip. Keep the first, change the multiplication, flip the fraction. So instead, I can take a fraction and multiply it by the reciprocal, which is just the upside down fraction. If I multiply it by the upside down fraction, it all cancels out because 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So everything ends up canceling out, which makes it kind of like dividing by that fraction, okay? Now, Joseph is asking, couldn't I have done the multiplication early? I could have. I could have gone from this step, and rather than distributing the 1/2, I could have multiplied by 2 up front, which would have canceled this out. And then 18 times 2 would have been 36. And then I could have subtracted my 19 there. So lots of different ways we can solve a problem. And I love that there's lots of different ways we can solve a problem because your brain solves things differently than mine. But we all still get the same answer. All right, let's move on to the next problem. Selena is filling up a cylindrical container that is 8 inches tall with sand until it is 3/4 of the way full. If the container's base has a diameter of 6 inches, what is the volume of sand Selena will be putting into the container? So when I'm solving geometry problems, if there's not already a picture, I am immediately plugging a picture into my brain and drawing it. So let's go ahead and draw our cylindrical container. Here's my container. And it's a cylinder. Now, they told us that it's 8 inches tall and it has a diameter of 6 inches. What is the volume of sand? Now, when we think about volume formulas, lots of people, not lots of people. If you're taking the GK, you get a reference sheet. If you're taking the new Praxis middle school exam, you get a reference sheet. Elementary, you don't get a reference sheet. So if you get a reference sheet, great. You're going to see that volume of a cylinder equals pi r squared h. If you don't get a reference sheet, you kind of need to know that formula. And also, if you don't get a reference sheet, this is the same formula as volume of a prism, because volume of a prism equals area of the base times the height. And this is just like a prism with a circle base. I'm just finding the area of the circle and then multiplying it times the height. That's all I'm doing. The funky U is a mu. Thanks, Hope. Didn't know that, but thank you. And Monique, I don't understand. What don't you understand? Which problem are you viewing right now? Because sometimes people are a little bit behind. So what part don't you understand? And I can go back and clarify for you. So pi r squared h. Now, when we look at a circle has a center point, and any line that extends from the center to the outside of the circle is called a radius. Any line that extends from the outside of the circle through the center all the way to the other outside of the circle is called a diameter. So they told us that the diameter of the circle is 6, but our formula has pi r squared h. We know the h is 8. So volume is going to equal pi, which is 3.14, times r squared times h, which is 8. 8 is height. What is my radius going to be? Well, if my diameter is 6, and in a circle, I have a radius plus a radius equals a diameter. If the diameter is 6, then the radius is going to be 3, because 3 plus 3 is 6. So volume equals pi times 3 squared times 8. Volume equals pi times 9 times 8, which is 72 pi. Now, you'll notice that in the answers are all in pi form, and my pi symbol got cut off. So I don't need to multiply the 72 times 3.14. I also am going to go back to my question and see what my question is asking. What is the volume of sand? She's filling it up only 3/4 of the way. So I'm not done. I'm going to take that 72 and divide it by 4, because I'm trying to divide it into quarters. So if I do 72 divided by 4, I get 18, but I want 3 of them. 18 times 3 equals 54. So my answer is going to be C. All right. We have time for maybe one more problem, and then I'm going to go back to our list of things that we're trying to go over next week, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A, and then we're done for the night. So let's do one more problem, and then we will be done for tonight. Let's do this one. Sophia is solving a system of equations and gets a result of 3 equals -7. What does this mean for the system of equations? This means that the system of equations doesn't work and cannot be solved. This means that the lines represented by the equations are perpendicular. This means that the lines represented by the equations are parallel. This means that the lines represented by the equations are coinciding. So I want us to conceptually think about this. I'm going to draw 3 different examples. Lines are parallel. Lines are perpendicular. It cannot be solved, or lines are coinciding. All right. If the lines are coinciding, that means they're the exact same line. So what's going to happen when I have coinciding lines and I solve the system of equations, which let's go back to. A system of equations is 2 equations that we're trying to solve together. Kind of like the mu and the cursive m, that was a system of equations. X plus y equals 9 and 2x plus 3y equals 7. That's a system of equations. If they're coinciding, you're going to get something that looks like this. That means they're the exact same line. This one, perpendicular, you're going to get like a y equals a number or x equals a number because there's an actual intersection point. So if I solve my system of equations and I get y equals something or x equals something, that tells me that those lines intersect. But if I get something like 3 equals -7, it tells me that the lines are not coinciding. They're not the same. But there's also no intersection point because they're parallel, which means that the answer is C. Now, if I had absolutely 0 clue, I would cross A off because it doesn't match the patterning of these problems or these answer choices. And while that's not 100% true all the time, what we can say is that most of the time, if the answer is way off the other 3 patterns, we can probably say that's not the answer choice because they're trying to catch your eye and get you to pick that one. Okay? Monique, I am so sorry. I think you're a little bit behind me, so I'm not sure which problem you're talking about. So are you talking about this problem right here? If you can, find me on Facebook and message me, and I'll be more than happy to explain further. We are running out of time, and I don't want to run out of time, but feel free to find me on Facebook and ask me a specific question because I'm not sure which problem you're on because I think you're a little bit behind me. All righty. So let's go ahead and go back to our list. Is there anything else that anybody wants to see me add to this list of things that we want to go over next week? I love our time together, and I love serving you by finding problems that you want me to solve. So whether it's a specific problem or a concept, this is my list that I'm going to start from next week. Tara, yes, this video will be available on our YouTube channel at some point tonight or tomorrow. All right, I'm going to hang out for a minute or two after I release it to Dr. A, just to see if there's anything else that you want me to add to next week's session. I can't wait to see you guys next week. With that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A, and I will see you all next week. Thank y'all so much.
All right, so wasn't that an amazing session? Now, I know, depending on what exam you have to take, you're like, man, that was great, but she didn't address everything I needed. She focused on all different questions, and I just need elementary, or I just need middle school, I just need high school. Don't worry. Since you're still with us, I've got a special surprise for you. If you use the coupon code, all capital letters, SINK35, that's SINK 35, that will take off 35% off any of our prep courses on our website at the Learning Liaisons. It doesn't have to just be math. It could be anything that you need that we offer. And this is going to be an ongoing deal for you guys who attend these live sessions, because these are great. I'm sure Amy opened your eyes to some new concepts, some new ways to tackle problems, building that confidence. But this is just a smidget of your exam, the concepts on your test. So if you want the comprehensive view with the practice with Amy, with the practice test, with the lessons and the content review, we've got your back on our video boot camps, which all of them feature Amy Sink, your math specialist. So if you want to take advantage of that, the code is SYNC35. You can use that at checkout on the learningliaisons.com website. And all that information is on our website as well, and on the bottom of the screen in this video. So we are here to help you. Once again, always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. Thank you for joining us again today, and hopefully we'll see you next week too. Talk to you soon.
All right, just one more quick note. Donna made a really good point. She said none of these were on her test. Yes, we hear that a lot. However, what I want you to remember is that if the questions that we were reviewing were exactly the ones on your test, then we would be cheating. So what I want you to know is what we build for these sessions and for our boot camps are directly related to the blueprints and the information that's given to us by the state. From there, they can take the blueprint and the information from the state and create questions that are a range of questions. I haven't taken the tests in over 10 years, so I don't know what those questions look like, unfortunately, at this point. Otherwise, I'd be able to help you even more. But what I am doing is taking the information from the blueprint and creating questions here. I will do my best to create some more abstract questions. That way we can think more critically, kind of like those like mu and all of those problems. But like I said, as long as you understand the depth of each of the things in the blueprint, you will be good to go. You've got this. Like you and I talked about earlier, it's not if you pass, but when you pass. I hope you all have a great Wednesday. I'm not asking, but I had a question. I don't know what to tell you. It should be based on the blueprint. So if you don't feel like the test was based on the blueprint, I would encourage you to contact the state. That's really all I can say. But like I said, it should be based on the blueprint. So with that said, I am going to sign off. Donna, you know how to find me on Facebook. So if you want to have a conversation about it, I'm more than happy to have more conversation with you. Everybody else, hope you have a great Wednesday.